As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Son of a bitch. He stole my life.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Welcome back to the Shot by Shot podcast, where today we're finally talking about a movie by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who is one of our favourite directors working right now. This is the second of 3 films that he actually made last year. Did not come out until 2025, though it is a film released this year. It was selected by Japan as their international pick last year, but as it didn't get US theatrical release last year, it was kind of just completely overlooked. Until this year, where everybody seems to be loving it. But I think it's another great example of why Kurosawa is one of the great genre filmmakers working right now. It's not directly a horror like his first film, Chime, that came out last year, and like most of his other popular movies. But it is a mashup of a lot of genres. It's like a horror, it's a thriller, comedy, action, all kind of spliced into one, but still very uniquely made in a way that only he could. It follows Yoshi, played by Misaki Suda, who recently voiced the Heron in Miyazaki's Boy and the Heron that won the best animated film. So he's up the rising. I think he was great in this film, and he plays a factory worker who, in his spare time, resells items on a website that is basically a like Japanese version of eBay. And this film basically just follows as he slowly gets further and further into a world of where he's doing illegal activities and he's reselling instead of it being on the side of his job. I really like this film. What did you think about it?
Yeah, so I saw this. I had the pleasure of seeing this at Leeds Film Festival a year ago now. Feels crazy. But yeah, I absolutely adored Cloud, and I think over time it's just gone even better for me over this year. Um, it's an interesting one because it is like a satire in a way that only he would think to make one. He's been dealing with this kind of internet culture and digital age for a while now, and this is kind of his I guess return to that world in a sense. And I see people say that like, oh, like Kyoshi Kurosawa is back. It's like he never really left. Like if you're saying that, you gotta watch more of his films, because he's made some phenomenal films this century so far. And yeah, last year, what was it? Chime, Cloud, and
Remake.
he remade his own film Serpent's Path, which, by the way, I haven't seen the remake, but you should absolutely go and see the original because it is outstanding. Is one of his best films. But Cloud is really really interesting because it starts out like a typical Kyushu Kurosawa film. There's this guy that looks like he's being almost stalked by mysterious presences, and then about halfway through, he like completely pulls the rug from underneath you, and we kind of switch to this comedy in a way that is so bizarre and stupid that is so atypical in a sense of what Kyoshi does, and it works perfectly for me. It's explosive and it is chaotic, but it still manages to root itself within this kind of desperation of internet culture that we've got ourselves twined into. But yeah, I found this really fascinating.
Yeah, it's like it does it. It like kind of sets you out thinking it's going to be like Pulse, like that kind of like isolated guy that's on the internet. That was obviously like very early internet. I feel like this one is a lot more of like now where internet's just like a normal part of your life. Like it wasn't like the very niche thing back in 2000 or whenever that movie came out. And it does kind of play with it's kind of in conversation almost with that film the way it kind of sets out to almost be a horror movie at the start, but then it quickly
Yeah.
shows you that it isn't, and it's something very different, at least that I've not seen from Kurosawa. And it's very set in realism, I'd say, compared to maybe some
Yeah.
of his other films.
Yeah.
Bringing genre into realism though, still it's still playing with genre, all these genres that we were talking about.
Mm.
But he wanted it like kind of. I think he said he was like jealous of the way that Americans can kind of just make genre films.
Yeah.
He finds it hard kind of way blending it into the Japanese culture and also the budget limitations that he's working
Mm.
in with that kind of side of the business. So yeah,
Mm.
this was a really interesting kind of way that he blended genre and while still keeping it realistic because it gets to like kind of ridiculous ends by the end of this film, but it kind of keeps that
Mm.
realism.
Yeah, it is really interesting because I feel like at times with Kyoshi, you're almost um his project seems so singular in vision, and this just feels like something that is uh opposite to that because there's just so much going on and happening, and where it's a genre film, but we're rapidly changing the kind of um form and tone of what's happening. And I think the second half of this film is kind of first of all, go and watch this film because we will go into spoilers, but it's out on digital. Um, but it feels like the second half of the film is like characters are like crawling out of an internet screen, and the way he kind of visualizes that is quite funny because they almost kind of like spawn out of nowhere in a sense, and this army of um, people that he's ripped off are all coming after him now. And the conversations that those guys have between each other beforehand is that it's funny how senseless they all are. They're all so hell bent on revenge against him, and they just throw everything aside. And um, it is true to its time, and it's not this kind of ropey timelessness. Um, but it is one of the more unique ways of visualizing this rapid and sporadic internet culture, like physically rather than actually through a screen. He's bringing it into he is trying to convey a realism version of it, but it's not realism in the sense that it's kind of boring, but he's moving the non-physical into the physical, which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of the films that kind of dive into this digital world are doing. They're more about moving the physical into the non-physical. But I was really really fascinated by that, and it culminates in like the worst warehouse shootout you've ever seen, but I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. Like, these guys are absolute idiots.
Yeah, that's by far the most interesting aspect of this film is the kind of physical and the digital coming together. You got that like first half of the movie, you got this character that's really like behind this wall of like safety where he can do anything he wants, and he's not really seeing the repercussions of like scamming these people with what was it,
Mm.
1,000? I don't know the price, but it was like
Oh
he
yeah.
was scamming people with handbags or scalping items. He was scalping miniatures and then selling them on. And he's behind this like
Mm.
digital wall where he doesn't have to see the people that he's scamming, and then
Mm.
suddenly you have these like people raiding his house with guns and kidnapping him, and it's like this
Mm.
jump from the digital to the physical is really interesting the way he does this. And it's so
Mm.
funny, like the reality of the gunfights that they have in this, where nobody looks cool shooting a gun when they have no idea what they're doing with it. And there's so
Yeah.
much realism in these gunfights. The sound design is amazing, obviously. Like I think that's like the thing that
Mm.
always stands out in his movies for me is the sound design is just like top
Mm.
notch and perfect. Because there's
Mm.
like no music in this, so like it's really like kind of adds to the realism again. With how accurate the sound design is in this, and just that scenario where he's trying to create real people in this like real situation, but it's also very silly and working in genre is a really fun time. And again, it's kind of like I feel like he's got like a trend of maybe putting ordinary people in extreme scenarios because he did that with Chime,
Mm.
where he has like this
Yeah.
chef that's just living a normal life and he kind of torments him until it goes to like a really extreme scenario as well.
Mhm.
So it's interesting theme that he's kind of going with his new films.
Yeah, and I really like that aspect of the ordinary because it almost it makes this kind of, I guess, realism approach kind of that more effective, taking a the concept of a completely normal, I get quote unquote normal human being, this kind of blank job, suburban kind of lifestyle, and pitting them against something that they're not used to. But yeah, uh, there's the character that he kind of adopts, like this sidekick character in the film, like to help him resell all the stuff.
Mm.
And I think it kind of deals with this senselessness and of false idols as well. He kind of sees him as this character, um, like someone to look up to in a sense, and this idea of parasocial relationships I think is dealt with really well, because I think that's something that can, when it's dealt with now, it's such an interesting topic to touch on, and I think it's one that is, like I said before, it is very true to its time. Parasocial relationships are something that are kind of taking over a lot of fan and internet culture, but it's kind of sad in a way, this one, because of uh, the the ending and where this kid kind of ends up. Wait, no, it is his. No, he has his partner doing it first, and then he gets somebody else, doesn't he?
Yes.
Helping him.
Yeah, he moves
Um,
into a new kind of
yeah.
apartment slash warehouse.
Mm. And
It's a very weird
he
living
kind of
situation.
he gets really paranoid of like people are trying to break in, and then you get the guy um with like he's got like some hood, or like, what does he even have over his head? It's like some of them have got. I
And
think
it's
it's
just
really
a
funny
plastic
that like
bag. Yeah.
I think it's really funny that one of them has like a plastic bag, and just none of them, they just can't be bothered to even hide their identity at all. And there's just this one guy running around with a plastic bag over his head, and you get that kind of
Mm.
really ominous shot of the guy kind of walking up to the door, and you can like vaguely make it out behind this glass, which is kind of blurred. Um, and then they're going running after him, but the people who are stationing him, they just start killing random people in the wake. This kind of it is almost like searching for someone like across the internet. I'm like, but physically, and they're just randomly going off tangents and um going through other people in that sense. Um and yeah, um and um the warehouse act at the end is is so stupid, but this kind of the physical idea of the internet is represented here, that's entirely what I'd expect it to look like if it is. The biggest morons, not being able to do anything
Mm.
with a gun, with not, they're sitting behind their screens and they're so big presence, but when the physical comes to happen, they're actually the biggest morons that you know. And I was really
He
fascinated
loves a
by
he loves a warehouse finale. I think that's
that. He
every film I've
does.
seen of his. He ends it in a warehouse.
Serpent's Path, like the most of that film is set in a warehouse as well. It's really interesting. Yeah, but I love the way he captures those liminal spaces. Like they're so
Mm.
wide, and he makes the characters within them just seem so small with these kind of wide shots. And I think I just, yeah, and it's yeah, and the warehouse environments are quite different between them, because the one in Seventh Path is quite large, but I think there's something quite claustrophobic about the one in Cloud as well, and the way he's kind of shooting it. But yeah, I think this film does share its biggest similarities in a sense with Pulse. Well, first half anyway, but mm, I like the way he's updated his politics between those two films, because you can clearly see in the second half, because I think both those films are Tale of Two Halves, um, both kind of different to the others. Pulses, they both start out quite scary and ominous and terrifying. This people behind a screen, and the back half of Pulse is just so lonely and desperate and sad. And this is completely out of control, which I like the differences between those two and what they kind of share as a double feature.
Yeah, yeah, his balance of genre and like keeping that realism in the second half of this is like quite interesting. I like how he didn't really change his like filmmaking style to kind of fit the genres that he was blending into. Like he doesn't
Mm,
change it to this like fast action kind of scenes. He kind of sticks with that like kind of slow tempo that he's doing in the first half. So it kind
mm,
of makes, even though he's switching genres, it still kind of keeps that continuity between feeling like the same film and still his. I feel like he's kind of struggles with some of the characters and the side characters. I love Yoshi as like the main character. I think particularly the way the girlfriend is handled is kind of baffling at times for me. Um, I think just the way she kind of like gets upset and leaves out of nowhere, and then she appears in the final shootout with a pistol.
it's so
Didn't
funny.
really work for me. Um, I didn't really understand her character. I really like his assistant though. He's like the greatest assistant ever. That comes from like he
Yeah.
seems like a guy that has like no idea what he's doing, and then he becomes like
Mm,
the guy in this final shootout where he's the only one. I think he's the
mm,
only one that really knows how to shoot a gun.
yeah.
In this fight. Um, yeah, I think Yoshi is by far the best character in this.
Yeah, but for me, I'm fascinated by the way these kind of internet digital films treat the kind of randomness of ambiguity of the characters, like moving instantly out of people's lives. That I think the Shroud kind of does it really well. This kind of this messiness and just out of control approach to narrative that almost encompasses the way the internet feels. And I think that's kind of similar with his partner in this, um, and especially these the characters on the other end who are somewhat faceless in identity, um, and as in we don't necessarily know a ton about them other than that they've been ripped off. Um, so for me, I think that's how I felt about it. Um, but yeah, I can. It is. It's an interesting way of to approach storytelling in that sense. But yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because it did remind me of the Shrouds. I was thinking the same, but like that also
Mm,
didn't really work for me. The way it kind of just like
yeah.
falls apart at the end. But yeah, I did also reach that connection. But yeah, I think this is. I think I prefer Chime. This is probably like
Yeah. That,
I've not seen a lot of his movies. This is like just by
mm,
like the fact that I've not seen a lot. This is my least favorite from him. Not that it's really saying much
interesting.
because I really enjoyed it, but I've only seen
Mm,
the four.
yeah. I think there's clouds. And you were touching going further. What I was just touching on. There's this. I think there's this idea of internet culture where you never really know somebody, and I think Cloud like really perfectly captures that feeling. The same with the girlfriend who just leaves immediately. The
Mm.
assistant who he just kind of he comes out of nowhere and he's just help. He's so willing to help all of a
The
sudden. This
corporate boss that
the
murders his
corporate
family
boss.
and comes from.
Exactly. And the false idols, like and parasocial relationships, and the guys who are hunting him, like they never really have proper or true, honest relationships with any of these people. It's all based on ideas filtered through internet or ideas that we never even really see. And I think that is even indifferent to the Shrouds in a sense. Both stand on their feet in their own right. And it's such an interesting way of capturing that because outside of the second half, we never really see anything filtered through that digital barrier. It is all physical, and that second half is almost like it is a complete breakdown of the barrier between the screen and the reality. And I think it's really really brilliant.
Is that where does this rank in Kurosawa for you?
That is an interesting question. Let me. I updated my thing recently. I probably did.
And obviously,
Um,
Cure is number one for both of us, right?
yeah, it is. At the moment, I have this fourth at the moment. Um, I've seen 9 of his films now. I have all of them great films, by the way. I've Creepy and Last. I've then Charisma, Retribution, Chime, Serpent's Path, the original, Cloud, Tokyo Sonata, Pulse, and Cure. Um, love all his films to bits. And he's such a fascinating filmmaker because even though this feels like new genre territory for him, everything about it feels so distinct to his style, despite it being new territory. I'm like, yeah, that's Kiyoshi Kurosawa, all right. Um, and that's maybe what's so surprising um about this. And
Mm.
I know a lot of people were let down by the kind of rug pull of the second half. They not necessarily what they expect, but I think the delve into new territory is really interesting in this idea of physical versus non-physical violence is quite fascinating. But yeah, the scene where he goes and like buys out all of those like anime statues
Mm.
and the sign just switching like sold down all the people out the front to just and he just like scurrying out the bag. That's is such a funny scene. We get towards the end, we get like the classic transport like CGI background. It looks like they're floating shots that Kurosawa has in one of his films. We get it that the bus is in Cure. I think they're in like a car in this one.
Yeah.
Um, it's almost like this mental limbo state is what it feels like. It's really interesting. Pulse has one. He's definitely done it in more than 2 of his films. I'm almost certain. Um,
Is
but yeah, the way it's,
is Cure the boss?
I think Cure's the boss. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm just kind of fascinated with the ability to balance and shift tone so dramatically, but yet still keep um, all of the commentary running. Not smoothly because I think smoothly is a bad way to put it, but with kind of friction and keep it interesting is really fascinating because it is a wildly unpredictable film, and I'm kind of glad that when I saw it, I didn't really know much about it in the sense, especially the second half. But yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting how fresh it does feel for him, and he's 70 as well. I did not realize he was that old to have this
yeah,
output because it kind of feels like
mm,
that, like 90s, early 2000s. Oh yeah, is part of that like 90s, 2000s kind of era of filmmakers, so he feels kind of younger, but he's been alive a
mm.
lot longer than he's been kind of like making movies in
Mm.
his prime, I guess. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been going back to the 80s.
When was his debut? Was it? What was his debut actually? I'm interested. I don't know what it was.
I know he had a couple of like smaller films in
Um,
Japan.
filmography. Film
There was a
called
Sweet
Kandagawa
Home.
Pervert Wars.
Mm.
Um, uh,
There was an 83.
83. Damn. When was he born? Born 55. Interesting. So he made his first film when he was just under 30. Yeah, it feels like, but I feel like obviously people associate most his work around kind of the turn of the century, and then that's why people
Yeah,
say, "Oh, he's back now," but like he's still been banging out films for the past for the entirety of his career, really, on a regular basis. You know, 3 films last year is pretty crazy. Um,
yeah.
I know Chime is still feature length. It's shorter, but yeah, I sincerely hope he just keeps up what he's doing because Yeah, he's one of my favorite working filmmakers, and his understanding um of the internet culture specifically is constantly updating and is always challenging in a way that doesn't feel like it's derivative of anything else at all. It's entirely his own. I'm happy that there's so many of these kind of filmmakers now that are in their lifestyle are adapting to taking down this digital and internet age, and albeit like, and none of these auteurs feel like they're piggybacking off one another. You know, Cronenberg, Kurosawa, Ferrara, and it's so interesting to see the ways they materialize these ideas, um, and the way they make everything feel completely disingenuous, and which is a pretty perfect reflection of what it's like living in this age, and uh, what exists and what is actually genuine. And I think Cloud is a really really fascinating representation of the opposite of what you'd expect of moving into a world that is non-physical, but he makes it very much physical. And yeah, I so enjoyed this film, and it is one of the best films of the year, by the way. So I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, where is it in your 2025 ranking? For me, it is number 9 in my year.
Nice. Is it like, it is number 6? It is 6th on the year for me, but I think it's been an incredible year. So I think that's really interesting, really good placement. But yeah, I've loved a lot of films this year, and this is just another one of those.
Yeah, so that's our review of Kurosawa's Cloud. Definitely check it out if you haven't, because as we said, it's one of the best of the year, and it is on digital.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go into our favorite watches of November.
Damn right we are.
Uh,
Have you got yours up?
yes, do you want me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. My 5th favorite watch of November was Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks, which is, I think it's actually the first Mel Brooks film I've seen. Very known for those like spoof movies of the 70s, kind of really kind of reinvigorated that genre. I just watched basically all of the big Universal monster movies last month for October, so this was like really good to go as a kind of like end to that, where he's basically just going over all of those movies and making fun of like the way the monster is and a lot of what even happens in those movies. He basically, it's such a weird one because he is it adapting like Mary Shelley's like books, but he's also like spoofing them at the same time. But it's also like kind of a better adaptation than some of like the actual Universal monster movies. It's such a weird combination, but it works so well. And I think it's probably Gene Wilder's best, or it's my favorite Gene Wilder performance. I'd have it over the Willy
Interesting.
Wonka movie. He is really good in that movie. Um, yeah, just a really funny movie. I'd recommend that if you've not seen it. Probably watch the movies that it's spoofing first though, for the best effect. Uh, Number 4, I watched a bunch of noir movies last month because it's Noir
Mm.
November. So I was watching The Lady Eve, which is a Preston Sturges movie. It's got Barbara Stanwyck and Henry Fonda. Barbara Stanwyck is like one of the best from that kind of era. Obviously, like Double Indemnity. I think this is the
Mm.
same. I don't know if this is the same year or just before Double Indemnity. But she's amazing in this movie. Henry Fonda obviously is amazing. I feel like he's genuinely one of my favorite actors, and I don't think he like. Obviously, everybody loves Henry Fonda, but I don't know if he gets brought up in that like top tier of like the actors from that
Yeah,
era or just all
he's
time.
so
He like
good.
got an incredible filmography. It's crazy when you go back and look at it. But yeah, this one's really funny. The Lady Eve, I recommend that. It's got a Criterion release as well. I'd recommend going and checking that out. Um, Noirs are filling up the rest of my top 5 because that is a lot of what I watched. I've got Murder My Sweet by Edward Dimitrik, which is like this is what's his name? He is the original author of The Big Sleep and Robert Altman's movie, an adaptation of Raymond Chandler. Raymond, that's the author I was thinking of. Where he's got like a bunch of detective books where it's following like Philip Marlowe, and all the adaptations are always like that character. So there's a lot of like different versions of that character done. Um,
Mm.
this of the Altman movie is probably my favorite version of that. I much preferred
Mm.
this to The Big Sleep, which is like the Bogart movie where he's playing that character. Yeah, this kind of just offers like everything you want from a noir. Like it's like the shadows are incredible. It's one of the best looking noirs I've seen. It's got those foggy streets, the highlighting. Like there's multiple femme fatales in this movie. It's kind of just like
Mhm.
you would use this to kind of tell someone what a noir is. And yeah, it's like a high 4 star. I think I really like this. Probably my favorite adaptation of his books. Um, Number two is Kiss Me Deadly, which is by Robert Aldrich. This was just like this felt like so modern after watching because I was watching like mainly like early 40s noirs, and this is like mid 50s, so it's kind of like coming, I guess, to the end of kind of like the prime of noir, like that genre, and kind of like old Hollywood. So it
Mm.
feels very modern, and if it there's like so many influences in here. There's some Lynch in here. Um, I don't want to spoil it, but there's like a scene that like you can just very tell is like influenced some stuff from Lost Highway.
Mm.
Just it's got a great hook. I think it's a film that you just get you straight away. I highly recommend that. I don't want to spoil any of the plot because it's obviously a good mystery. But yeah, that one looks incredible. And my number one is the favorite noir that I watched last month, and it's The Killers, by Robert Sodmak. I think this is Burt Lancaster's first movie or one of his early movies.
Damn.
He's so good in this movie. And he's got like Ava Gardner alongside him. Um, she looks incredible in this movie. It's up there as one of the best opening hooks I've seen in the genre. One of the best hooks I've seen in recent times. Actually, it's the opening is so good. It's kind of like it's kind of the same structure as Citizen Kane, where it kind of tells you the end and then it works backwards, and it's kind of like jumping back and forth. So I've seen some people saying that it's almost a copy of that, but I think it's a good kind of adaptation of that kind of structure. But yeah, it's the best movie I watched last month. That was my only 4.5. The Killers. Highly recommend that movie.
Damn. All of mine are 4.5, and I've won 5.
Mm.
So at number 5 for me, I actually a very timely film as of yesterday. Jafar Panahi's "This Is Not a Film," so
Okay.
titled as he wasn't allowed to make any more films, to do anything artistically rated at the time, which is why it is called "This Is Not a Film." It is a documentary, um, and I think I think we were told yesterday. I think he's still got a year's prison sentence to serve, which is why I think he said next year he's going to go back and do that. Which is why, obviously, for reasons because the Iranian government and their regime against kind of art and his films and Jafar's films are very anti of the Iranian establishment. If you've seen any of them, it's very, very obvious. He is a fascinating director. Um, and this is a really, really, it's kind of sad film. He's kind of contemplating going over this script that he has that he never got made, and he's trying to reenact stuff, but it's like, what's the point if you can tell the film, then what's the point in making it? And it is a really interesting documentary that takes place kind of in his apartment, and towards the end the kind of apartment building, but it is essential work, and yeah, really fascinating one. Absolutely love that. At number 4, I have Abel Ferrara's The Blackout from 1997. One of his most underrated films with Matthew Modine in it. this is his Lost Highway. And both those films came out in the same year. They hold some similarities, but it is really interesting. What's his name? Dennis Hopper's in this film, and he kind of he's like the version of the mysterious man in Lost Highway. He's got like a video camera, and he looks
Oh, well.
quite sneaky and crazy. It's so funny. It's a phenomenal film, and it is kind of start of this one of my favorite unofficial trilogies. Kind of throws look into the landscape of digital filmmaking between this, The Blackout, New Rose Hotel, and Zeros and Ones. Three unbelievable films, but this is kind of the beginning of it. It's this kind of the start of the digital filmmaking age where everyone is kind of going around filming in freedom. You're either being filmed or you are filming or both at the same time, and there's a lot of overlap in this. And it's about a film where the digital photography starts to catch up on you and starts to reveal secrets. And it has this so many tangible layers to it. There's a lot of meta text in there. I'm pretty sure, I'm going to confirm this, I'm pretty sure Abel's actually in this film. There's a really interesting aspect to it. Maybe he isn't. Maybe I'm was seeing things in that film. Anyway, it's really, really fascinating. And I was kind of blown away by it. But yeah, it feels quite angry as well, and it asks a lot of questions. But it is one of my favorite of his films. It's on Prime. If you're in the UK, would absolutely recommend it. It is fascinating. And make a triple feature out of it with New Rose Hotel and Zeros and Ones, two of my other favorite films of his. But yeah, really, really great film. Number three, I do have a film that I have already touched on, well, mentioned on today, which is Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Serpent's Path. I don't know why I haven't watched this for. I've been meaning to watch this for ages, and I finally got around to it. It just completely blew me away. It really it's a revenge story, but it really plays against the cliche of like the thing that you see in a lot of revenge films, like killing the person won't bring your dead relative whatever back, and it really plays against that idea. It is completely dehumanized. It is a very dark film, and it is so. With the dehumanization comes a lot of ambiguity. You know, there's a lot of kind of things that aren't answered, but I think that's what makes it all the more scary in a sense. There's this kind of idea that he kind of goes through multiple people of who he thinks has killed his daughter, which is what the whole film was about, and he just keeps on recycling. No, you've done it. No, you've done it, and and the only thing that's kind of left of his daughter are these kind of digital videos, just shadows, traces, and it is really sad and phenomenal. I absolutely love that. Another one that I would highly recommend. Number two, I have got a film that you recommended to me, Ryan, John Ford's Wagon Master.
Nice.
Like any John Ford film, I'm just in love every time. The landscapes. There's something about the almost simplicity of the narrative in this one. Yeah, I just live in those environments. I'm such a sucker for those films. And yeah, this is just it's textbook Ford. It really, really is. And one second. There's that. Where is it? No, that's not what I want. 1 second. I had it written down somewhere. Just they're like the running gags, and they're like the catharsis of the line where he's like, "I thought you never drew on a man," and he's like, "That's right, sir, only on snakes." Like the hit of that at the end
Mm.
after that, and like, oh my goodness, this is it. But yeah, it is classic Ford. The movies, it's so good. I live
Yeah.
for this stuff. It's phenomenal. I absolutely adored it. I do need to get back to watching some Ford though. I feel like I kind of stagger myself a bit. I leave a bit of time and then I'll just watch one.
If you watch too many masterpieces in a row, it becomes less.
Exactly. I want to watch Fort Apache next. That's been on my list for a while.
Mm.
I think that's the one I want to watch next.
Another Henry Fonda.
Yes, another Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda and Ford just go crazy. My Darling Clementine and young Mr. Lincoln as well are the best. So good. But my favorite film I watched in November was Godard's Notre Musique from 2004. I still think I stand by the fact that I still think he's one of the best filmmakers ever. He has just the most fascinating filmography to me. He's like his post new wave stuff is some of the most dramatic changes in filmmaking I've seen. But I think I can't decide which is my favorite film of his, but this is absolutely up there. Made in 2004, is a pretty eternal film and timeless. This kind of collaboration of information and different information, and the way cinema kind of composes language and the implications of compositions and how it can ruin um, meanings of things. And it's not all that in the sense that it's really preachy and direct, but it is kind of sad the way that kind of cinema is bear witness to all the things that are going on around us. And I think there's a line in this film that's like, if they defeated us in poetry, then we are done for. And it kind of killed me. But yeah, it's fascinating in his like In Praise of Love, Notre Musique, Goodbye to Language, The Image Book. All those films are one of a kind and pretty undescribable kind of kaleidoscopes of images and commentary. And yeah, I don't know, it's just absolutely my kind of thing. And yeah, I think this is one of his finest pieces of work.
Yeah, I've not seen any of his modern stuff. I've only seen his new wave work.
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
stuff
going to
outside.
slander him since Daniel wasn't here.
Well, actually, I say his new outside of his new wave stuff, but it's totally different. There are similarities, but yeah, his post, his post new wave stuff has this air of quality to it that is unlike anything I've ever seen from any other filmmaker, and definitely worth checking out because they are something to behold. And yeah, I thought this was a masterpiece, to be honest.
Nice. That was your number one?
It was my number one.
Nice. Okay, that was our favorite watches of last month. Let us know what your favorite watch of November was and what you thought of Kurosawa's Cloud. And we'll be back next week for an Abel Ferrara deep dive of his filmography.
Yeah, baby.